Molly Sprague. How good to have you back.
Thank you, Dom.
Look at that big smile.
Always happy to be here. I'm back, so who wouldn't
You're
be happy?
always happy is what I've noticed, that every time we talk, you're happy. And
Well, my title officially is Operations and Sunshine, so you got to bring it.
That's right. I forgot that because you've been on the show before, right?
Yes, I have. Thank you so much. Yeah, you had us chatting about Good Space and how we took our design process online.
Yeah,
so
which we got some good feedback on that.
Yeah.
But I forgot your title, Operations and Sunshine. You definitely are sunshine. That's good.
Thank you.
We should probably tell people, because some are listening as audio, they're in the car with their family.
Yeah.
Or they're walking around the shop with headphones in. But some people can watch this on YouTube as well and catch the episode there. So say hi. Hi, everybody.
Hi, YouTubers.
So Molly, you're running it. Why don't we do this? Molly Sprague, who the heck are you? And how is it that you come to be talking to all these forward-facing cabinet makers, architecture millworkers all around the world?
Well, it's a great question. I am Molly Sprague of Good Space Plans Online. We are a family-owned and operated online interior design firm.
Nice.
Online since 2012. So that's something we're very proud of. Mm-hmm. As I know, a lot of firms went online recently just due to COVID and that forced their hand, but we've been doing this for a while, and I'm very proud of the system we created to make it so successful.
So who are your clients in this online design world?
Great question. Well, it started small, and our clients were typically clients that have engaged with full service who are now willing to kind of engage with a new service, which was online. And then now our clients are across North America. I'm proud to say we just sold a Good Space plan in San Francisco for a brand new bungalow. And so this client is going to receive a comprehensive interior design plan that they're going to implement as their time and budget allow. And they're going to do it all online.
So they drive it themselves. The homeowner in this case? Right. Are they the homeowner or the
Yes,
builder?
they are.
Oh, wow.
They're the homeowner, and they're going to drive it themselves. And they're going to engage cabinet makers themselves for their bathroom renovation. And we're going to supply really comprehensive drawings. And that's how we get there.
So cool. And just before we get into our topic today, which is keeping it simple.
Yeah.
Systems and operations, which
Big
is awesome.
fan.
Yeah.
Big fan.
Tell us about you, so we know a little bit more about you, because I just asked who your perfect customer is, but who's Molly?
Yeah, sure. So I as I mentioned, it's a family-owned and operated business. So my mom is our principal and owner.
And Dwayna's been on the show too.
Dwayna has been on the show, yeah. So Dwayna Sprague is our owner, and she's been doing interior design my whole life. She's a designer, went to school, did it all. And then as I graduated university, a little lost with a BA and not sure what I wanted to do with my life, I kind of stepped in to answer phones. That's honestly how it started, was just a comfortable desk and a seat to fill. And I realized I got a lot of joy out of answering phones and clients engaging with me. And I really got to take the opportunity to see a business that's a creative industry from a different perspective. And I could really see how creatives can get stuck, or what the support they need from systems and operations specifically, and how to set them up for success. And my uncle trained me to do that. And he kind of pushed, and my mom pushed. And now here I am, 10 years later, and still doing it and loving it.
Talking on a podcast about
simple
and systems and operations.
During all of that, which was it's a business networking. And that's
I cut you off there. Who did you join?
I joined a network called BNI, which is a fantastic program. And it's a business referral networking program. It's global, chapters around the world. Yeah. And I filled a beautiful seat for interior design in a Vancouver chapter. And it's been massive for our business.
Oh, has it really?
Yeah, a lot of connections. I was even just looking at my stats, and we've closed a huge amount of business. And I could confidently say 20% minimum of our business comes from BNI.
Wow. Yeah. Not that this is a commercial for BNI, nor is this sponsored by BNI, but you're the president of your chapter, or you're the past president?
I'm past president. We have a new president. They do it every year, but the new ones are realtors. So him and I kind of work hand in hand together too. Okay. So, but it was massive for my leadership, and also their systems and operations. Talk about a global business. Like, they kill it with their systems and operations. That's how BNI founded itself, is just, this is how we do it. This is where we're going to do it. You're going to do it too. Yeah. And it taught me a lot.
So because some of the cabinet makers listening have designers, they've got their own people in the field.
Yeah.
Or they have salespeople, depending on the size of their business or how they're structured. On the architectural millwork side, they may have people who go out in the field. But for anybody listening who might need to do local networking, why is BNI the right thing, or who would be wrong for it? Give us a BNI ad.
I think why it's the right thing for especially trade industries, they have power teams in these chapters. So you have referral partners. And then for me, I have a contractor, an electrician, a mill worker, a custom furniture maker. Like these are really tight referral communities where we literally share a client. And a client steps through all of us, and through the end, they're supported. And to me, that's so valuable when you can fill holes that you know you're not an expert at with someone who is. And then not only someone who is, someone you trust, and someone who's willing to invest in joining a program like this to get the ROI, which is massive. If you engage, it's giver's gain. So the more you give to the group, the more you gain.
It's always that way. The more you give, the more you get back. The more you're into it, the more stuff just flows backwards to you as well.
And when you're doing that, I think business owners love connecting people innately. I think that's something you're passionate about. Otherwise,
some do, some don't. Some aren't connectors.
Some don't.
You know, if you're an extrovert, if you're outgoing.
That's true. That's true. But natural. I do think there's connections to be made that people make naturally in these industries. And you're like, I know someone, and you really want to make those introductions. This is a program to do that in and get back.
Right.
So I think that's, to me, is just the best.
This is going to be an odd question about BNI, but does it matter which chapter you join?
Yes, it does.
Oh,
I'd hunt around.
Sorry, say that again.
I'd hunt around. It's like dating. It's like online dating. You gotta date
okay. Well, that's way beyond my age category, my pay grade. But so the reason I asked that before you answer, the reason I asked that is because if I'm aligned for a certain kind of customer, let's say a middle of the road customer, like, kind of lower end, a family that's always having, a perfect client for me is a family that needs to renovate their home, but they're always struggling for cash. And I'm like, I got to turn this around. Why would I go to a BNI group that serves that same neighborhood, which might, by the way, be where I live? So I'm not knocking it. But if you could spend a few more minutes driving to a different neighborhood, let me hand that over to you. Molly, does it matter which BNI you join?
It does. I would say strongly it does. There are different chapters, specifically with different power teams, different kind of client brackets they're looking for. And I found the Valley, their chapters are young, and like Maple Ridge, some of these places, just in more kind of farmland areas, they just have a different energy in their chapters. And that's not to say it's bad. It's just, if you're a Vancouver contractor looking for commercial space, I don't feel heading to some of those chapters would be the best idea, and vice versa. Yeah. A beautiful small candle maker who's making these intimate connections. Sometimes you can get lost in these bigger chapters. So I think it goes both ways. And I think you're super wise to check them out. And that's the fantastic thing about BNI. You can check this out before you join.
Yeah.
Is wise.
Well, that was a nice little commercial interlude for BNI. But for anybody out there who's thinking about getting not necessarily more business, because right now, most of the people listening are almost underwater on the business they've got, which is why you're going to be very popular, because systems and processes. Imagine if we all saved ourselves an hour a day just in wasted nothing work.
No.
The business is already coming in. Now we've got to get it out the door. So Molly Sprague, let's talk about keeping it simple and systems and operations.
My favorite. I think we started this because I preach, if I get an email that's 4 paragraphs long, I hate this. You're going to the bottom of my to-do list.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Because I can't, in those moments, to engage with that much at once it's hard when you're busy and you're trying to get things done. When I get emails that are like 19 points long, I love those because you're getting simple, you're very clear, and I know what you need and I can get to you quickly. I don't have to weed through the fog.
Yeah. Let's stop for a second there. I love it. I'm a point form kind of guy.
Me too. Yeah.
And because I'm me, I apologize at the beginning. Hey, Molly, just so it's easier to track, I'm going to do this in point form. I hope that's okay. And then it's like, boom, 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 boom. Yeah. But I don't want to write a paragraph. I don't want to read a paragraph. I'm too busy for that.
I'm busy and you're busy. And I also think of the person who wrote this, took the time, and you you feel the energy they put into it. And I feel bad because I'm like, I want to give you that same energy back, but I'm not going to be able to because you're not being clear enough.
Yeah.
And it's the over explaining. And I think a lot of trades do it because we have issues, things pop up. That is the industry. Problem solving is what we're in the game of.
Yeah.
But when it comes to problem solving, it's like, you don't need to explain the problem. You just need to present the solutions clearly. And I think we get quite bogged down.
That's a nice takeaway there.
Yeah. Re-explaining, because we're all going to have these problems. The table's manufactured wrong, the wood's back ordered. What are our solutions we can present first? And I think that you have to take that second as the person writing that email or thinking about it, because we often come to each other with the problems. Let's collaborate. And you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Ball your court, present me a solution. And
this sounds like a you problem.
Totally. And it is. And I think when you take responsibility, it's much easier for someone to hear you.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a whole bunch of great wisdom in that too. So, and I want to make sure people listening have takeaways. So if we stopped right now, my takeaways would be, hey, think about how I send emails, or think about how the people on my team are sending emails, and talk to them about sending it point form, because it's much more succinct, and keep it to one topic per email. I'm not going to
100%.
Oh my gosh. I'm not going to go off on that tangent. And then the other thing is, come to me with solutions, not problems.
Absolutely. Especially
is that fair?
If you're CCing a client, never say the problem. Always say the solution. We've had these sneaky CCs sometimes, and you're like, why is the client on this email thread of a problem we were trying to solve?
Oh, yeah.
And I think it's that over communication. They're like, well, the client wanted to be in the loop, but do they need to be in the problem loop? Let's make them in the solution loop. Understand where the communication is needed.
Yeah, I'd like you to go home tonight and think, I'm going to get quoted by a whole bunch of people all around the continent today.
That'd be so
Let's
cool.
be in the solution CC loop. Oh my gosh,
okay.
That's quotable.
The embarrassment, and for those people who aren't on YouTube, is I'm sitting next to a bowl of colorful pens and Post-its everywhere. So This does not feel like a quotable human, but thank you.
Oh, no. We're going to get to the colors. Remember, I have a mug of colored markers here too. But let's say you walked into what I'll call a typical cabinetry shop. And and folks listening, when I say cabinetry, any sort of casework here. So you walk in, you've dealt with lots of cabinet shops. This is your chance to talk to us and say, hey guys, can I just point this out? What would you do if you walked in and I said, hey, come on and help me turn this front office around?
Oh, I'd ask everyone how they're feeling. Check in. How's it going for you? What's your problem? Where's your downfall? What's your pit and your high? What are you good at? I just don't think that check-in is and how you actually feeling and what is going on for you as a person working in this space. Yeah. What's going on? And that's, in fact, I spoke with a woman this morning, and that's the number one thing she said. I said, you step into architecture firms to solve system problems. Where do you start? That's big.
Oh, so what does she do? Yeah.
She literally said, ask questions and get to the root, because you'll start finding a common thread through every individual you're going to be speaking with who's functioning in this office. And that's where you start. Yeah. And then like we spoke last time, you start backwards. Okay, so this is the problem. The ideal would be blank.
Yeah.
Let's work backwards. How are we going to get there? And just start with that simple steps. Like literally when people are like, I'm so much, it's overwhelming. It's like, no, pen, paper, let's go. Because then you can actually do something with it. Yeah. And the woman this morning even said documentation. She steps in, you could step into this office settings per se, and they're like, well, what programs do you have? Well, I don't know. So-and-so is the administrator. I don't know. I don't really even use that anymore. It's like, whoa, okay. So lots of different energies being put in a lot of different buckets when you're okay, let's go back to basics again. So I think get to the root.
Yeah, get to the root cause. And so root cause analysis is just asking why.
Yeah.
And the general rule that I would use as a business coach or as the owner of a company is I want to ask why about 5 times, really calmly, which can be tough when we're busy, just to sit down and ask why. But if I heard you correctly, if you walked into an office today, you would sit down with everybody one-on-one and say, hey, what's going on? How does your workflow? Where are you finding the sticking points? And then by having that ability to step back a bit, you'd start to see consistencies.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's my belief, is that nobody's more or less important in these office environments. And I think there is a hierarchy. I choose not to see that when it comes to systems operations, because that little cog is just as important as that big cog, because they're not gonna go if they're not both on the same page.
Yeah.
So I think addressing everyone as equal, especially when it comes to them engaging with their work and something that requires such organization like cabinet making, that's down to the minutia detail.
Oh, are we going to use Splot? Yeah. All that.
No
stuff.
Detail too small. And that was the first thing told to me when I stepped into an interior design firm. It was like, so what is really the root of this? Everyone's like, there is no detail too small. Double check, cross-reference, the minutia matters. And when you have that, you need a system.
Yeah, you definitely need a system. I'd like to put this out there, and I can't offend anybody because I'm not looking at anybody, but business owners listening, you might be the problem. And let me add, I'm also a business owner, and I know I'm the problem a lot of times.
Oh God, yeah. I'm the problem sometimes.
You agree too.
We all are the problem.
But my point to that is, if I am gonna, take your advice and go and talk to everybody in the office and say, what are you hitting as roadblocks? What's the constriction or the constraint, etc. Be aware that they might not say, actually, Dom, it's you.
Yeah.
They're going to say other things, but if I really take a step back, honestly, it might be me.
Yeah. And that is when you ask a question, you have to be prepared to hear an answer. And it's a vulnerable split. You got to drop the ego. And that's why sometimes it might be better to have someone else ask the question and be the relay. Because then if you're that going to be sensitive, because it is true. I've had bosses ask me, how do I help you? And it ended up with them just being defensive and me leaving like more confused than when it started.
Yeah.
Like,
it's hard. Listen, it's hard to be the boss because I need a job done. And I got all these people who I don't want to hurt their feelings, but I need them to do the job. Yeah. And I don't think I think you're doing a great job here, but I don't think you're doing a great job over there. You think you're doing a great job everywhere, and you think I'm an idiot. And so there's these gaps, right? So there's people listening to this right now laughing, going, oh my gosh, Dom, you said what I want to say, what I want to yell in the office. The challenge is I have to build a team, not my ego.
Exactly. And for me, where my ego used to get in the way with systems and operations was I'd have these grandiose ideas. I'm going to fix it. And I'd present like a 9-point solution, and each one of them required a program, and that program cross-referenced with that program. And I was so jazzed up, and you're like, it was like crickets, and everyone's like, are you joking? Like, you just made 3 hours of more work for a problem that really isn't that big of a deal. Yeah,
we're not solving a problem that needs to be solved.
And that's like, I think that's a lot of people's pitfalls, especially with all these new programs and management tools and all these things you can get. It's like, whoa. Like, is this what you need? And is this going to really help?
Yeah. So let me, I said, yeah, because I agree with you.
Overwhelming. Yeah.
So if I'm the business owner, and you said to me, hey, Dom, what do you find frustrating in your day? If you ask me that question, I'll tell you. I have one in mind that I'm going to make up. Let's do a little role play with this. Are you okay? I can sense that you're okay with it because your smile even got bigger.
I love a good improv role play. Okay, get me a prop. Let's do this.
So go ahead and ask me, Dom, where are you frustrated in the cabinet shop?
Where are you frustrated in the cabinet shop, Dom?
We're always hunting for things. We spend a lot of time searching for stuff.
Are you searching physically? Or are you searching virtually? Is this tangible things?
Yeah, like paper, files. Like somebody's always searching for something.
Yeah, okay. So what department would you be searching in specifically?
Engineering.
Engineering, okay. And have you spoken with a person in that department as to where they have put these things? Is there communication regarding the system breakdown?
I mean, there is communication, but it's around revisions and change orders.
Those are big deal. Those are heavily tracked. They need to be.
So, yeah, I don't know that and you know what I think our problem is? We don't name things. Like I know how I want things named, but nobody follows my system.
Yeah, absolutely. And is this your system that you've spoken to people about?
Oh, there's 2 questions there. Yes, it's my system. And I've told people that I want them to use my system.
Did you tell them with a written document that they could reference?
No.
So that would be my first recommendation, is to document your expectation around a system so everyone's in the know. And make sure that document's on a wall.
In front of everybody, right? This is how we name a document.
So when you have a breakdown again, you're going to be able to come to that person with a thing.
Right. Yeah. So by the way, on that, thank you. That was very well done. And I hope people listening went, oh, I could do that. Or I am doing that. So that's
am doing that. Now I need to point out the document again.
Yeah. And file naming is a thing. It's a thing.
We have a very clear system around file names, and I'm very passionate about it. And I've crossed color tagged exactly. Blank.
I just held up a Post-it note, by the way. So somebody should be commenting that Dom used a Post-it note, because I got a thing for Post-it notes. And Molly, I know you like Post-it notes, but they're made to, you got a dispenser. So Post-it notes are made to be disposable. Oh yeah. Businesses are not. And so when a business owner shows up to one of my meetings with Post-it notes, I ride them hard. Oh yeah. But this is taped to my monitor. This is my system here. This is how we name a file.
And for me, like you said, it has to be documented in a way that everyone has access to it.
Right. Yeah. This is my version here without going to look at a document. I just look up there and
exactly.
File number, name, and the name has to match.
Mm-hmm. And then it just makes it so much easier to find things.
Well, and imagine in the change order process, just as an example, where you spec'd it as a base, and then it got changed to a pedestal, and then it got changed to just whatever a third term would be, So now we're calling it different things.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. And then we've got
it's overwhelming.
Oh.
And then you're dealing with people who call it other things, which is my favorite. You've got a different word for the same thing?
For the same thing.
Yay. Another word.
Yeah. Gable ends? What are gables? And then somebody else calls it something else. You're like, oh. So that's an example. And who teaches us this is Starbucks and Dunkin' Donuts and Tim's. Mm-hmm. There's a language you speak when you walk up to the counter for your coffee, and they've trained us. This is how you order a coffee.
Yeah.
But we need to have that same language in our company. This is what we call a gable, or this is what we call a kick. This is what whatever the thing is. Right.
And I would say I'm proud to say we actually have a glossary of terms.
Of course you do.
For our staffing.
Who put that together?
Me. I actually highlighted every single word on a drawing set I didn't know as a layman's individual stepping in. And I said, it's unfair to have an expectation of everyone understanding this. And I'm proud to say, teach me. I don't know. And then so we created a system around it. So there's a glossary of terms, and we proudly use that. And if a designer steps in and doesn't know something, I will happily email them that document for reference.
Well, that's actually a great tool. And, the labor problem that we're all facing right now is we're probably, there's a good chance we're going to bring somebody in from outside the industry who doesn't know the words and certainly doesn't know how we build custom kitchen cabinets in, wherever we are. So why wouldn't we have a glossary? That's a great point. I'll have to add that to our onboarding systems that I work with people on.
It makes it inclusive. It makes someone who doesn't know in an industry where you get eye rolls when you ask questions, a tendency. And so I think it's more comforting to say, this is an environment for you to learn. Please ask questions, because when you don't, the assumptions left space for a margin of error that you can't afford. Yeah. Your client can't afford, your timelines can't afford, your projects can't afford, and your team can't take that hit. Yeah. It's really upsetting when things go wrong because someone didn't clarify.
So people listening are agreeing with you, but they're also saying, Molly, Dom, great episode. I can't do all this stuff.
No.
Now you want me to onboard people with patience and sunshine? Oh, that's so nice. No, I'm not trying to offend you, but
no, it's true.
The people listening are busy. They're not 6 weeks behind in production. They're 16 weeks behind in production. The phone is ringing and it's somebody saying, where's my stuff? Or they're saying, I know you're going to put our stuff through, but can you wait 6 weeks? And no, it's got to go now because everything. Yeah. So my point is this: how do I know what to work on first? That's my first question. And the second question is, how many things can I simplify at a time?
I would say communication. We're in the industry of, if you don't,
so that's the first thing to do, communicate.
First thing, clear communication. And if you're struggling with it, set up some templates. Set up some basic email templates that update clients. Set up a basic onboarding communication. And these email templates will save you so much time. And they're so easy to set up. Find an email you loved, copy and paste it, make it a template. We've all sent that email. We're like, I felt really good about that.
Good. I nailed it.
That format layout, they updated, it was this, and like, steal it. Remember those moments and use it again and again. And I think it sounds time consuming. It's not. You already did the work. You wrote it, copy and paste it, and reuse it. I think keeping people with clear communication and aware. I can disappoint someone if their sofa's 10 weeks. If I've told them every week, it's 10 weeks. Still 10 weeks. It's an easier pill to swallow than, you haven't heard from me in 9 weeks. I'm about to tell you it's another 9. That's a little bit tougher. I think just clear communication is key. And that goes for your staff.
I was going to say, you're talking about to clients, but you're talking about to everybody.
Everybody, keeping everyone in the know. And that even means I'm stressed, I'm grouchy this week. Help me out. We're 16 weeks behind. Help me out. Be clear. Everyone says, like, check your baggage at the door. To an extent, yes. But if you're coming in and people don't know where you're at, they can't set you up for success. They can't help you. So I think the communication goes for everywhere, and doing your best to get vulnerable with that communication. Like, this isn't working, and it's helpful. It's vulnerable and it's helpful.
Yeah. it's hard to be vulnerable.
Oh, especially in an industry when there's no time, space, energy to
Yeah, well, and some, being vulnerable uphill, like to a GC who's barking at you or who might have penalties. I'm speaking more to the commercial side here, although residential as well. This communication though that you're talking about with clients, I know the answer, but I'm going to ask this. Can I just do that?
Yeah.
Do you preset a communication schedule with your client?
Yeah.
Okay, well, let me finish the question. So it
No,
sounds like you're like, Tom, I have to think about this.
Tom, I spent so long on it. I had to
what's
answer.
that?
I spent so long setting all that up. So I had to answer yes.
Yeah. So just because people are going to, I hopefully want to know that. What's your basic process that when you start a new client, here's the communication schedule that you tell them you're going to have?
So when they onboard with a Good Space plan online, so it's an online process, we have standard templated communications that pop in automatically. They're all preset through our software. So that's pretty awesome that I don't really need to touch it. It's an well-oiled machine.
Nice.
They get their welcome notifications. They get their to-do onboarding list with all their instructions. They get a follow-up after, because you can only give a person a message at a time that's this long. 2 days later, how are you doing with engaging? An additional follow-up a week later. And then if they don't get stuff done, they kick into different communication funnels.
Okay.
And it just took me mapping it out. And I don't over communicate. That's my big thing. Don't answer right away. You're creating an expectation that's unrealistic.
Oh my goodness. Thank you.
Do not answer right away.
As soon as you start answering right away, you have set
you're done. You're done. Bye-bye.
King Kong is loose in New York City. It is the worst.
It's the worst. And people I know you got a sales, you're going to serve this client 24 hours. Set the expectation. Don't answer after 6 p.m. either. They're going to see a timestamp on an email. Send it at 6 a.m. Show that you're up an early bird, but really set that expectation of when you're going to communicate and just gently map out what a client journey is and set up some templates for it. It's so much easier.
I'm so happy you said that. I mean, the people listening are going to laugh, but here I'm going to say this now for them to laugh at. I want you to leave the office, go get a coffee, take a blank piece of paper and a pen with you, take your blank notebook and go to a coffee shop and write out your flow chart. How's the onboarding work for a client? That's what Molly's talking about here is map it out on paper. And you're younger than me. I don't want to say millennial, but you're younger than me. So you're more.
I'm younger than you.
You're much younger than me. And so for me, saying to write things down with pen and paper is natural because that's how I went through school that whole way. But younger people, they're like, oh, I do it all digitally. But I've noticed a couple times you've referenced pen and paper, highlighters, colors. So you still believe in writing on paper?
I firmly believe. It's my learning style. It's how I studied in university. I found it much more, just how I learn is better.
There's a connection between your hand and your brain. You can't do it digitally, not typing with your thumbs.
I just can't. I don't think it gives you the opportunity to scratch out, assess if that was not the best idea, and start again quickly in the moment. I think our brain needs that.
Wow, what a great way to say that. Yeah.
I do like that. And that for me was my issue with virtual classes was like, well, where do I scratch it out because it wasn't a very good idea? They're like, well, just delete it. I'm like, but I need to reference it because it wasn't a very good idea. So what if I do it again? They're like, well,
we're supposed to learn from our mistakes.
Strike it out then. I'm like, that's not the same as giving a good old quap and scratching it out and starting again. And so for me, I really firmly believe a pen in hand makes you think a little differently. It gives that degree of separation because you're obviously going to engage in a virtual communication of some sort. And I think just getting it on paper is key. Carry a pad of paper around, just get it done.
Yeah, carry a bound book.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm going to change that. Carry a bound book.
Bound book. I'm a big fan of loose paper.
Yeah. So we differ on that. And I'll tell you why, because I'm a business owner, right?
Yeah.
And what was the movie with Clarice? I'm going to eat your liver with fava beans.
Like Hannibal Lecter?
Hannibal Lecter. What was the movie? Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah.
Do you remember? I don't know if this is a horrendous reference, but we're going with it now. It's too late. We don't edit these shows. But when they walked into his apartment the first time, there was books lined up on his shelf for years.
Yeah.
That's what I have boxes of these books going back an insane amount of time. But because I'm a business owner, I need to reference these things. And so
Absolutely.
I need that permanence of having taken notes and saying, oh, I spoke to Molly back in January about this episode, and this is what we talked about. And now I've gone through the book.
Yeah.
I'm on a new book, but I can go back to the January book and go, oh, there's Molly's notes. And we pick up like nothing. I need the permanence of this, but I also need the flexibility of I'm holding up a book, folks, for those of you listening, not watching it on YouTube. But if I want to switch from text, like writing sentences and having point form, to sketching something, I can't really do that I cannot do that on my phone.
No.
I mean, I'm sure there's an app out there who's going to contact me and say, our app.
You can get the Apple Pencil and get really creative. And I have one, but I still.
I did that too. Yeah, I did that too. And then we had a memory and storage issue and a back. So I can back up paper. Anyways,
no, and I agree. The bound book thing, I went for a very long time. I only used one, the 5-star, because it had the pockets. I like that. And I actually, like you, I kept mine. I have a box of dated with the months that it went through.
We're psycho.
We're psycho. Yeah. I even do it one step further. Is now I carry a permanent stapler for my loose papers, and I label them and file them and keep them like that. And I'm insane. You're talking to someone who loves this stuff. So really, I know I'm
folks,
insane.
I just want to point out the fact that Molly just picked up a custom swing line stapler. It's pink. It's pink. Not the standard one. Oh my God, we can't keep up with you.
No, you got to make it fun. And I do hear you, and I agree. If you can't reference it again, I keep my to-do list because I need to know I did it. And it's also when you're feeling real low on a day you didn't get a lot done, you scan in an old binder, look at your old notebook, look at what you did accomplish, and just sit with that joy for a second. I think we steal a lot of joy.
So to-do lists is a big deal when it comes to time management. And that has to be one of the most consistent frustrations at the core of running a business. Is there's just too much to do in the amount of time that we have. And so people feel exhausted because they're scattered. They're frustrated. They're pulled in a million directions. It's a really common challenge. We're doing more on time management here all the time. But one of the things we talk about is keep a to-do list and then strike it out or put a check. Some people like check marks, some people like X's, but whatever it is, that feels good to strike something off.
Oh, 100%. I embarrassingly have written things on to-do lists I've already done just to cross out.
That's a mental trick. That's okay. That's playing that, but that would be the mental game of success.
It is
doing things that set you up for success, right? So that's a firing mechanism in your brain that says, okay, I've done this. Now I'm ready to go to the next thing. So if you're doing that.
And for me, it's do the thing that's going to take 5 minutes and give you that, like you said, that instant joy. This has been eating me. I've been putting it off. I'm going to do it right now, and then do it. I'm the queen. I love a good procrastinate and get a coffee and then sit and like maybe write a new to-do list in a new color, but something about it in those moments, just being like, okay, I'm going to do it now. And like forcing yourself you push yourself. And I think it's like, that is that kind of wiring of like, oh yeah, I got it done. Just boosts you that much more. And for me, it's voicemails. I put off checking my work voicemail so much because.
Do you know why?
Well, because no one likes voicemails.
Because it's 2022. Who left you a voicemail?
I know. It's because it's me more stressed than anything is voicemails. And I even get them sent to me in text now, and I still get stressed. Yeah. I'm like, oh man. But I really force myself. Nope, you don't like it. Top of the list, get it done. Because I feel like $1 million when I have. And when I haven't, it eats me all day.
Yeah. Have you used a method? I'm going to use the fancy word, the Pomodoro method.
No, please tell me more. So
the Pomodoro method. Pomodoro is an Italian word for tomato. And I guess the guy that made this up, I forgot the name of his book. I'm sure somebody will ping me here and say, so-and-so. But it's that little tomato timer that sits on your stove.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Yeah. So you can do that. I do it with my phone. I talk to, if I say it, it's going to set the timer, but I talk to SIRI here all the time. And I'll say, set an alarm for 15 minutes, set an alarm for half an hour. And that gives me an amount of time to do a thing.
Yeah.
And then I work like stink inside that time. And guess what? It doesn't take that amount of time.
Never.
And so we know that work expands to fill the time allotted. Now that's a pretty fancy way to say this. Remember how hard you work the day before a long weekend?
Yeah.
Like how hard do you work on that Wednesday before you're leaving on a Thursday for a long weekend?
Oh, you grind.
It's incredible. But what if I could harness that anytime I wanted? And we can. We can by playing tricks on ourselves like you did, like rewriting your list just so you can cross it off, or by setting a time limit, artificial, like, okay, I'm going to research this file that we've lost for 15 minutes. And that's the only thing you're on. It's a way to trick your mind and just do that. And you know what? 7 minutes later, you're done. And then the alarm goes off another 7.5 minutes. You're like, what was that alarm for?
Exactly.
But if you hadn't, you'd spend the whole afternoon doing it.
Yeah, I have a time cube. That's like, it's like just a little timer that sits on my desk. It's a cube and has 10, 15, 20. And I used to use it when I tutored kids, and it would be a visual because it has a countdown on the bottom of the cube and you just set it down on the minutes you want. And I got it on Amazon. It's really cheap. They're like, they are used for studying. And for me, I love it because you get to set it down. It lights up. They're just a little time cube. They come in tons of intervals of time. They go in like 30 seconds, all the way up to an hour if you want a bigger time cube.
Wow.
And for me, it's a visual. And like you said, if I'm spending any longer than blank, this task is no longer profitable and I need to do something else. I need to move forward past this in some way or get someone else to do it who's going to take less time. But really do set those time limits.
So time, we're talking about keeping it simple with systems and operations, but time is still an undercurrent of everything you talked about. How seriously do you take time?
It's one of those conversations we could get super deep and philosophical about it. But for me, I know when I shine and I know what times I should be communicating things. And for my business, I kind of know the times of day I'm going to do emails and reply to them because that's going to be the most successful time. Like I learned, I don't send clients pricing for furniture goods in the beginning of the day. I just don't. My communications have quadrupled with that client if I send pricing at the beginning of the day.
Oh, because then they just keep asking questions. What if we did it in Paisley? What if we did it? Yeah.
If I send it at 5:00, I get no questions. And the next day they want to go with it. It's a very interesting thing that but you have to check in and really do those assessments and then work with what's true for your business. If you are an early morning bird and you are flying high, get your stuff done in the morning. But if you're not, give yourself permission to sleep that extra hour and knock it out when it's best for your business and most successful. But it requires that self-awareness. And then for in a small business, it's that lack of apology. Where it's like, get that client that pricing. Nope. I've learned lessons. I'm sending it out at 5. It's already been pre-scheduled. No.
I wonder if people know that you can time your emails. I can write the email this second and I can send it tomorrow at 2:16 in the afternoon.
I do that all the time. I do it quite often.
Yeah, there's a way to time your emails, folks, depending on the email system you use, whether it's Google or Outlook or whatever, Gmail or Outlook. But just look it up online. You'll be able to find that. That way you can write the email now and you can time it to go out tomorrow at 10:17 or
absolutely
doesn't matter, or whatever day you want.
Whatever day, and for me, it's like when you're on that, especially if you're on like a roll of writing emails or copy and pasting all your templates, get them done. You feel so good thinking, oh, wow, that's actually going to happen when I'm sleeping. It's just glorious.
So for keeping things simple, and do you mind if I ask, how big is your company people-wise? Like how many people are in the organization?
Yeah, so we have a team of 2, Dwayne and myself. We're full-time. And then Dwayne is a designer. And then we have 3 subcontractors.
Okay. So how do you guys deal with meetings in your company?
So internal meetings happen. There's a design meeting that I'm not a privy to, which is fine. They run all of our clients. Yeah. It's
how often's the design meeting?
Every week, 1 time a week. And it's typically on Fridays. And that usually runs, if it's a short review, it's usually 60 minutes. But if they're actually getting some work done, it can go up to 3 hours. And that's predetermined by our client's load and what the designers need. They really do tell us, we're really busy. Let's book a 90, or we have a lot of questions. Let's book an hour and a half, or longer than an hour and a half. So
sure.
And that's really the designers. And then internally, we have a run clients meeting, owner, Dwayne and myself, every Monday. And we run clients, and we go through every single client, every last communication, make sure all of our to-do lists are cross-referenced with the design to-do list and my to-do lists. And then we schedule those, because on a Monday, you can pre-book out your week.
Sorry, you schedule what? When you say you schedule those?
Everything that's on a to-do list has to be cross-referenced to a time to do it. Otherwise, you're not really going to get it done.
So we're going to do this Tuesday at 2. I'm waiting for an answer. So that's not going to happen until Thursday at 3, etc.
And people are very nervous if we're like, well, it's not confirmed. We have a great system. If it's labeled tentative on our calendar, it's a maybe, and it requires a check-in the day before. There's no tentative label. It's a go ahead, and that's a firm to do, and we're going to get it done at the time it was on the calendar.
Who's the person on the other end of that, by the way?
Me, like Dwayne and myself.
No, but when you say it's tentative, am I the homeowner? Am I the cabinet maker? Who am I?
You could be our contractor sitting in on a site visit. You could be a client pending their husband's confirmation. You could be anyone in those tentatives, and clients know it. We invite them because we have an internal calendar and we have a client calendar.
Okay.
And they do typically line up sometimes, but when they don't, the client knows, you're like, well, you need to confirm. And I poke them, send a reminder. Is your husband good for this? Blah, blah. And really a calendar for us is key. We really use it as if it's not on the calendar, it's not going to get done. And we book out months. I'll book I'll hold the design team. It's a tentative meeting for this week. Get it done. That's our due date.
It takes a lot of work to manage the calendar. This is where I was going when I was asking about time when I started this track, is that I have found time management to be an ongoing thing.
Yeah.
It's not, I got trained on time management. Now I'm done. It's a constant study. It's constant tweaks. Like you just told me about the time cube and I wrote that down. I mentioned Pomodoro to you and you're like, oh, what's that? Yeah. Well, we both did the same thing, but I know exactly what both of us are going to do. Like, I got to go get one of these times. You're like, I need that cute red tomato. Right. But the point is time management is an ongoing thing. And none of us should expect that we're done tweaking it and working it, because our calendar, once the time is gone, the time is gone. I can make you money. I can make anybody money. I'm not kidding. I cannot make you time.
No,
I can't. Nobody can. Right. Yeah. I can make you money. I can lose you money. No problem. I cannot make you time.
No, right? I agree. And for me, you have to be willing to have it change. And when we had a bigger design firm that was a brick and mortar, and then we changed our business model, our time management changed. And our whole team was very uncomfortable. And it was one of those, I hear you're uncomfortable and this is how we're going to do it now. And, you have to be willing. It can't be this this is how we're going to do it. This is concrete. And I think we all experienced that working from home, and our whole business model shifting with COVID. It's like, well, you have to shift. You can't be permanent. There's nothing permanent. Be willing to change with what's true now and be okay with it.
Yeah. Based on data and information. Well, as you probably know, a bunch of the cabinetry industry, largely they just kept rolling. There was a couple of weeks off, depending on what state or province people are in, but it's a manufacturing job where we have to go to the office to turn on the CNC or run the edge band or whatever it is, right? Although some of the, maybe engineering or office work could have been done from home, but that's over now, I think.
Yeah. I felt bad for a lot of these warehouses that were knocking things out, and they're having now shift work because they could only have a certain capacity of staffing. Think of the time management shift you had to make there. Yeah. And a night shift in a day. And it was just, that's interesting. And you had to pivot. You got to do it. The hands have got to be there, but you had to make it work in a new way.
Change the way we do things. Yeah. So you actually went and prepared for today's meeting.
I did.
You said there were nothing. I mean, everybody prepares for our show.
Who doesn't really?
I mean, everybody. They're just dying
novels, to get on here. I studied for hours.
But there, you said you met 3 other people, or 2 other people. I don't need to know who they are, but you met one that was an architect.
It's a tech firm, and she kind of helps legal law firms and architecture firms with their, systems and operations in regards to their processes on computers. And, we'll get you a nailed in system, so you're not having 9 million programs, and our team's going to support you with that. And it's going to be scalable, and it's a growth mindset system, which I found really cool. Because I think a lot of those systems aren't scalable when you step into them. They're like, we're going to do this now. And you're like, well, what if I have 20 more people? How are we going to make that work? Yeah. So she was saying, it was just really interesting because tech stuff, my head goes a little foggy, even though I'm an online interior design firm. Yeah. I hire someone who could ask people to do that for us.
Yeah, I have people for that. That's a great answer on this show. I have people for that.
Totally. Yeah. I know what I'm good at, and I know what I'm not. And just having someone in tech kind of value align with me in regards to system operations, and her just saying take control early with documentation is such a good piece of advice. She's like, if you're a small business and you're going to hire 5 more in the next year and 10 in 2 years, start with documentation early. And I said, well, what does that really mean? What do you mean? What kind of documentation are you talking about? She's like, I can't tell you how many times we step into offices and everyone's pointing a finger that everyone else has access. Oh, this so-and-so's login. It's so-and-so. I don't even know where that, licensing code is. She says there's so much work done in just those basics that you could have printed out that document, stuffed it in a manila file that says codes to access programs, those really short term, quick, but they're quick enough that you're like, I'll do it later, and you don't.
You never do it.
I thought that was really interesting because it's the same thing with documentation and taking control in an early phases of a system, which is great.
I just went to a dark place on that. I know this is a difficult one to do, but people should not be changing passwords without my approval.
Oh gosh, no.
Because otherwise somebody could leave. Let's just say a designer, just to pick a position. A designer could leave and then we can't access the file. And of course, when they leave, they're not usually at the height of their love affair with our company. No. So they're like, yeah, I'll get you the password, buddy. It's pound sand, right? You're like, typing it in a million different ways. Pound sand. How did you spell pound? And, yeah, but now I could be locked out of my could be locked out of a certain software. And so it's a simple system, but passwords need to be approved before they're changed. And if they're not, that's it's a serious breach. It's a big deal.
It really is serious, and it can start early, and it can just slide so easily by for so long and become a way bigger problem. And I thought that was really good advice. And then she just said on a day-to-day basis for firms that they start engaging with, they have every single person keep a notebook. What isn't working? Write it down right in the moment and keep going. And
so
she said,
the opposite of sticking your head in the sand and ignoring it?
Exactly. Instead, stick your head in the sand, give yourself permission for a second, but write it down, move on. We're going to try to solve that. I like that. Because for me, I get like, oh, this isn't working in the moment. I'm going to fix it right now. And I do have a tendency, because I'm very solution oriented. Let's do it right now. I had a to-do list and this wasn't on it. So I really like that advice of write it down. When it's not working, you can come back to it and fix it.
Yeah. One of the things that happens, and we see this in production meetings a lot, although we also see it with the toolbox talk, which is, in a manufacturing shop, that's where they're having their meeting with the whole crew led by the foreman or maybe the project manager, is a problem will come up and it can derail a meeting.
Oh, hell yeah.
Right. And so one of the solutions, and we talk about it on the show here, is don't let your meetings get derailed. Still hear the problem. Like we didn't get the paint. Oh, the designers are getting hit today. We haven't got the samples back from the designer.
Yeah.
So everything's off. And now two people start talking and there's a side conversation in our meeting, production meeting or floor meeting. Somebody, probably the person running the meeting, has to say, thanks, guys. I got that down here. I appreciate it. Let's stick on the topic. There's one topic at a time in a meeting. But you have to have the discipline in a meeting to say, we're talking about one thing at a time.
Yeah.
And some things don't make it on the list. I don't mean to offend you, but it's a list. That means there's something at the top and there's something at the bottom. Yeah. It's still on the list. It's just not number one on the list, or Absolutely. Not number one right now.
And I think just the act of you writing it down as the individual running the meeting, it causes someone to feel heard. Their problem is valid, and it will get dealt with, and we're going to continue on.
I'm going to freely admit that sometimes I write things down with no intention of doing things, just because I know that person now felt heard.
Well, I secretly.
I'm not doing that to you.
If Dom writes it on a Postit, we know how he truly feels about it. So
there's the key. If somebody sees me write something on a Postit note, you're like, he does not like that idea.
It didn't make the notebook. No. I don't know.
Usually what I say, and people who do coaching with me will hear this, they'll come up with an idea. I'm like, that's a great idea. Let's come up with 6 more great ideas. So because I don't want to tell them that idea might not fly. Let's come up with more great ideas.
Oh no, my dad was a lawyer, and when I used to talk to him about problems and stuff, he'd go, okay, switch. And then he'd present my problem to me, but then I had to present the solution. I'm like, wait, I don't like this. He's like, what?
I just want to borrow the car.
It's a really good technique. He's like, we used to in law all the time. You argue the other person's side and you figure out, all the pit holes. He's like, it's great when you have a problem. And it was really good advice, because it's true.
Changing your perspective. Yeah, we do that in coaching as well, or we should. Coaches should do that, is go back and ask or switch roles. Say, okay, Molly, now you're the coach and I'm the client. And then I'll give a summary of the situation, and the person, the Molly in that situation, is like rolling their eyes like, oh my God, it's so obvious. Like,
exactly. I think it's a really fun, and I just think when we present these problems, and I love when people are like, oh, this happened. I'm like, let's fix it. Let's get it done. Let's do our systems. Let's communicate, blah, blah, blah. And then after, you got to have that moment of like, oh, wow, what's the takeaway for real? Where were we responsible for real? And let's do something about that. Because I think when there's problems, there's a lot of finger pointing, and like, that expression, you point one and 4 are pointing back at you or whatever,
3. I don't know how many fingers you have in your hand, but 3 are pointing back. Oh, you're counting the thumb?
I guess thumb doesn't really make the cut.
Yeah, that's okay. It's okay. You have cartoon hands if you've got that.
Yeah, cartoon hands. Yeah. No, but it's true. There's always a place where you're responsible. And I think it's really important to take that second.
Yeah.
and take it with a group of people so they feel heard and validated if they were part of the
Well,
issue.
let me allow you to feel heard and validated, because I know you had a list of things to talk about today. Have we hit them all?
Mm-hmm. We nailed it. And honestly, I'm passionate about point form communication, everyone. That's the biggest takeaway. Please send emails in point form moving forward.
I'm amazed to hear you say that, because you're a big personality, and my assumption would be long sentence. Have you ever heard of the acronym TLDR?
Okay, why have I? Yes. What, this is like an old, yes, this is in my brain, but I don't know what it is.
Too long, didn't read.
Yes. Okay. My girlfriend's an accountant and she says that all the time.
TLDR. Yeah. If you send me an email that's too long, I am not going to read it. And I think there's something wrong with you. Right. So like if I have a serious onboarding with somebody, we've got the contract discussion, then we have the agenda discussion, and then we've got times and dates discussion. At least in my mind, those are 3 different emails, because I want to be able to track it later. What time did we say? Oh, we'll go to the time email.
Yeah.
What was that in the agreement? Some discussion back and forth. Well, that was in the agreement email. It's not in all the emails everywhere. Oh my God, what an insane way to live. And so what I like to do is break out those things so that they're trackable, because it's important enough that it's its own piece.
Yeah. And for me, if you're using your emails as a point of communication, like you're describing, please have a very good tag reference for your email titles and subjects and make it consistent. So when you're that human trying to find what you said, you can search that project name, and I explain that to clients. You're going to get your name, your project name is going to be on your email every time. It's because we love you and we want to keep track of you because you're important. Secretly, it's so I can type in your name and find all of our communications at once.
Yeah, but that's a system that works. So can you tell us what that tag looks like when I get an email?
Absolutely. So it would be the project name, residence, followed by what we're speaking about. And if it's a phase of their project, we have phases depending on what program you're kind of engaged with. If it's online, it's different, but our full service has design phases. We reference the design phase.
Yeah.
And then we reference what we're talking about. And
so without use Rubino for the last name, so you're not giving away any client confidences. Can you tell
Rubino, phase 2, design and construction oversight, change order, bathroom number 1.
Right. And then do you put the date in there, or do you just allow the email to have the date?
I allow the email to have a date. I find dates just get a little bogged down and clients start changing them on replies for me, and they get a little change happy.
Interesting.
I think people like to be like supportive, but it's like not helpful. So, it's like, I've left dates out. And
then you're training me that I know that I'm going to see those. That's what the title of an email is going to look like. So that weird robotic email title is excellent, by the way, but it tells people, oh, wow, okay, we're talking about my project on a residence, design and construction, whatever the phase was, and change order.
Correct.
And now I'm not surprised there's a change order, by the way.
Oh, there's always change orders, and they have to be tracked the most. Like the most communication should be done around changes and change orders. And the interesting part for this communication style is for our online platform, we communicate all through our website. And with our brand new software we're dropping, so there's a little, see what I did there, Don?
Actually, this is a great time to talk about it. So let me do this. Molly, if somebody wants to get in touch with you after the show, how do we find you? And so now tell us about this thing, because you guys have been working on it for a while. I talked to you and Dwayna about it a year ago.
Yeah, so we have our own software now. It's dated for our online, so we knew we needed new software. And so we are currently developing, and it should be launching in about a month and a half.
Good for you.
Very excited to say. So if you would like to find us, and if you know someone who believes they can't afford interior design and they want their mind changed, come to Good Space. So they're going to go to goodspaceplan.com. And they're going to follow us on House, Instagram, Facebook. Tell us how you feel at home. Shoot me an email. My name's Molly. My email's on our website. You're going to get a real human. And we look forward to chatting with you. And for our online software, it's going to be awesome. It's going to be so supportive. You can be anywhere in the world, and we're going to be able to help you feel better at home. And that's what we're passionate about.
It's interesting that you guys offer online design services, because some cabinet shops are just not set up to do design work.
Yeah.
They're not charging properly for it. It's just not part of what they do. They're really passionate about working with wood, and their 3D ability to make something gorgeous is off the charts. Yeah. But the customer dealing is hard. And so I have lots of people, and especially the people that straddle between high-end cabinets and architectural millwork. They do both. Yeah. Very often I'll hear them say something along the lines of no designer and no deal. Like if a homeowner comes to us, but they don't have a designer, That's somebody else's drama party. So, but this would be a great solution. So anybody listening who's in that place, then I guess you guys would be that designer.
Absolutely. We just did a kitchen renovation out in the valley, and the lady has comprehensive drawings. She's engaging millwork shops. She's engaging contractors, all with the same comprehensive drawings, no details left out. The expectation is still shop drawings, because clients are taking these measurements themselves, and things should be double checked. But it's a very empowering tool to be able to say, hey, give me a quote. Hey, give me a quote. Hey, give me a quote. And they don't need to do the work. It's all specified for you. It's done. We did it.
Yeah. That would save me time too. If you guys are generating shops, then I go out there and I do a confirmation email, sign the contract, huggy, kissy, baby, all that stuff. But then it's done.
It's done.
And I don't have all the back and forth and driving there and missing my kids' practice and my daughter's recital and my son's travel team. And
all to figure out what pole they want and, where it's going to hinge. And, we've already done it. Like, let someone do it, and who's going to do that upfront work. And I think this is the attitude of a lot of new contractors too. They no designer, no project, because I'm not going to hold your hand through Home Depot. It's just not profitable anymore.
Well, it just takes time. If you're not skilled at the design conversation, you're skilled on lots of other things, but the design conversation is a different conversation where you have to let people go through all these different textures and patterns and colors
and feelings. Like, it's like a feeling. It's your home. Typically we're dealing with residential, so it's a home, or it's their home office. It requires that soft hand to listen, ask those questions. Cabinet makers, like, tell me how you feel at home. It's tell me where you want your gosh darn cabinets. Like, what do you want? And I'll do it for you. But it's like, well, I actually don't know. And I'm rather upset about how I feel at home. You're like, okay, well, go to Molly. Dwayna and Molly will listen. They'll listen, and they will hear you, and you will feel validated, and you will come up with a plan that is feasible.
And then we can build it.
And then someone else is going to build it. And if you can get competitive quotes, that's what we keep telling people. They're like, well, should we engage other contractors? I'm like, with what? An idea? You engage.
Nothing makes a contractor happier than, I don't know what I want, but I want something done. Can you start tomorrow? And my budget's like this big, sorry guys, I put up little tiny fingers, but it's true. And you have to prepare for that. And I think designers are the best to have those conversations with, and then be that handhold to the end, where now you have what you need as a cabinet maker or a millwork shop to set them up for success and timelines. And it's just so much easier for you. Yeah. I'm excited that you guys have this as a software.
Me too.
So let me know how many of the listeners come back and ask you questions or whatever. And
absolutely.
Based on that, we'll see if we should have you back. Folks, if you want Molly or Dwayna back on the show, let us know. We've had them both already before. Well, thank you. I really appreciate you coming on. Your energy is excellent and your points are spot on. I disagree with your loose leaf paper thing, but you just won a lot of points with the pink swing line stapler.
Exactly. And we got to disagree somewhere, Don. We got to keep it fresh.
Can't be all over the place. Yeah. All right. Thanks, Molly. Have a great day.
Thanks, Tom.
Okay. Bye.